By 1833, the British government no longer treats slavery as a permanent institution. Rebellion in Jamaica, political pressure in Parliament, and economic change have shifted the calculation. The question is no longer whether slavery should end, but how to end it without losing control of labor or provoking planter revolt. Emancipation is designed as a legal act that preserves order rather than a social rupture that invites uncertainty. The abolition law does not remove slavery immediately. It replaces it with a transitional system called apprenticeship. Enslaved people become apprentices bound to their former owners for a fixed term. Field workers are assigned longer periods than domestic workers. Labor remains compulsory. Wages are not required. Discipline remains legal. Freedom is postponed in the name of stability. This structure reflects the priorities of the state. Plantations still need workers. Sugar production must continue. Credit contracts and export schedules cannot be interrupted. A sudden withdrawal of labor would threaten revenue and confidence. Apprenticeship is presented as training for freedom, but it functions as a method of retaining control while changing the legal language of ownership. Compensation is paid not to the enslaved, but to the slaveholders. The British Treasury borrows heavily to fund these payments. Property is converted into money. Loss is shifted from planters to taxpayers. The state accepts financial costs to prevent political resistance in the colonies. Freedom is purchased as a transaction rather than granted as restitution. On Jamaican estates, the change is visible in law but limited in practice. Labor routines remain. Work hours are fixed. Punishments are regulated rather than removed. Courts replace overseers as the formal source of discipline, but the effect is similar. Apprentices can be arrested for refusing to work. Time is still owned by the plantation, only under a different name. For formerly enslaved people, the new status produces confusion and conflict. They are told they are free, but they cannot leave. They are promised protection, but they remain subject to command. The language of freedom enters daily life without altering its structure. Expectations rise faster than conditions improve. Planters interpret apprenticeship as a right to continued labor. They resist attempts by magistrates to limit punishment or shorten hours. They argue that discipline is necessary to prevent disorder. The state supports them by enforcing contracts and prosecuting refusals. Authority moves from plantation management to legal administration, but its function remains to secure work. The colonial government presents abolition as proof of moral leadership. It emphasizes legality and gradualism. Violence is said to be replaced by regulation. The empire claims to be guiding a population from bondage to citizenship. In practice, this guidance operates through surveillance and courts rather than through consent. Apprenticeship also reshapes resistance. Open rebellion becomes less likely under a system that claims to be reforming. Disputes move into magistrates' offices rather than forests. Complaints become legal rather than physical. Conflict shifts from confrontation to interpretation of rules. Missionaries and reformers monitor the transition closely. They report abuses and delays. They argue that apprenticeship is slavery in disguise. Their letters and testimonies reach Britain, where they undermine claims of success. Public confidence in gradualism weakens. Economic pressure continues. Sugar prices fluctuate. Estates face competition from other colonies. The cost of supervision rises as courts replace drivers. Planters complain that labor is less reliable. Apprentices complain that freedom has been postponed. Neither side sees stability. Within 4 years, the transitional system loses support. It is too harsh to be humane and too weak to be secure. Magistrates are accused of favoring planters. Apprentices are accused of laziness. The structure satisfies neither labor nor capital. In 1838, apprenticeship is ended early. Legal freedom is declared. Former apprentices are no longer bound to estates. Labor becomes contractual. Movement becomes possible. Ownership of persons is abolished in law. This does not produce equality. Land remains concentrated in plantation hands. Wages are low, housing is scarce, taxes and laws favor employers. Freedom exists within an economy built for coercion. Control shifts from chains to contracts. Abolition therefore marks a change in legal status without dismantling the plantation system. It removes ownership but preserves hierarchy. It replaces slavery with dependence. The state withdraws from direct enforcement of labor but maintains authority through courts and police. The end of slavery in Jamaica is not a single moment. It is a managed sequence designed to protect production and prevent unrest. Freedom is introduced as regulation rather than rupture. The empire treats emancipation as an administrative problem to be solved rather than a debt to be repaid. What is abolished is property in human beings. What remains is a society organized around sugar, land, and inequality. The law changes faster than the economy. The whip disappears from statute. Control persists through scarcity and contract. Slavery ends as a legal category in 1833 and as a labor system in 1838. Freedom begins as a condition without resources. The plantation does not collapse. It adapts. Abolition removes the right to own people. It does not remove the power to command work. That difference defines the post-slavery order